Exploring the risks of longevity, the dark side of living longer. Retirees should plan for a long retirement. What are the potential risks of longevity? Longevity risk refers to the chance that life expectancies and actual survival rates exceed expectations or pricing assumptions, resulting in greater than anticipated cash flow needs. The longevity trends can result in payout levels that are higher than what a retirement fund had originally been accounted for. Here are some of the concerns associated with increased longevity. Interest rate risks, demographics and interest rates in Asia. There is empirical evidence of the relationship between demographics and interest rates. Demographic trends could put downward pressure on interest rates by about 1 to 2 percentage points in the current decade from 2020 to 2030. The impact depends on three factors: the degree of openness, the state of aging, and the speed of aging. As the age distribution shifts towards the middle age, saving increases and the investment demand declines, thereby lowering interest rates. As per the report by International Monetary Fund, real interest rates in India may drop by more than 150 basis points, or a drop of more than 1.5% over the next decade. A decline in India's dependent youth, those from the ages of 0 to 15 years between 2020 and 2030, is expected to result in a reduction of long-term interest rates in the country. The simple truth is that fixed deposits won't make us rich. If we live for longer, then we need more money. I have provided the link to the International Monetary Fund working paper, Demographics and Interest Rates in Asia, in the description. Relationship between interest rate and inflation. Interest rates and inflation are inversely proportional to each other. Low interest rates lead to people borrowing more from the banks and saving less. This increases the supply of money in the economy and also the demand. As a result, prices of commodities rise and causes inflation. Inflation risk. Inflation is a risk that persists into retirement. It's a fact of life that we cannot get away from, but it can often be overlooked. In fact, not only can inflation eat away at the value of our income's purchasing power, but also at our retirement investments' capital value. Firstly, have we built in increases to our income, at least in line with inflation, each year as part of our retirement plans? Secondly, as we get into much older age, we may notice that our tolerance for investment risks starts to decline with age, with a possible move towards more cautious funds. Our investment capital will still need to grow to keep pace with inflation to retain its real value. Market risk. There are plenty of good reasons to invest at least some of our savings in stocks and bonds, and that decision leads to the risk known as market risk. Market risk refers to the volatility of stock prices over time. According to the World Economic Forum, given past strong performance in equity and bond markets, future expectations for long-term investment returns are significantly lower than historic averages. Future investment returns are expected to be around 5% for equities and around 3% for bonds, below historic averages. Returns are misaligned with benefit projections and individual expectations. High costs are eroding investment growth. I have included the link to the World Economic Forum white paper, "We Live to 100. How Can We Afford It?" in the description. Sequence of returns risk. When we are in retirement and decide to access our pension savings, there are additional risks to be aware of that can have a detrimental impact if left unchecked. Sequencing risk is crucially important. If we have a poor start at the beginning of our retirement, when we begin drawing our income from our pension, such as when markets are falling and returns are negative, our investment is placed under increased pressure from the beginning and may result in shortfall in the later stages. Once we invest in risky assets like stocks, outliving our savings becomes a possibility, which is referred to as risk of ruin. Risk of ruin is the chance that an individual will lose such a substantial amount from an investment that they will be unable to recover from the loss. I have included the link to the presentation "Sequence of Returns Risk Can Derail Our Retirement Sooner Than Expected" in the description. Inheritance risk. Let's consider by imagining someone currently working who splits his retirement savings portfolio in half. The first half is the legacy portfolio, is intended for his inheritors, and the second half is funding portfolio, which is intended to fund his or her own retirement expenses. But what we fail to anticipate is the sandwich generation, where a financial earner is wedged between two dependent generations. We will be affected by the greater longevity of our parents and the effect that has on the transition of family wealth. Inheritances may be delayed or assets may disappear if aging parents incur significant healthcare costs or long-term care. Or parents may simply live longer, which could delay beneficiaries' access to the assets. Imagine the potential impact on our retirement lifestyle if the announcement of reduced or eliminated inheritance comes later in our life cycle, when it may be too late to replace the lost inflow of those expected assets. It will dramatically transform a family's balance sheet for the worse, which will ultimately create a knock-on effect that spirals from generation to generation. The value of the estate or inheritance may decrease over time, or worst case, we will even run the risk of running out of assets. What is our greatest retirement fear? According to the second edition of India Retirement Index study, over 80% of urban Indians fear running out of money in retirement. If you ask pre-retirees this question, what is the biggest risk in retirement? Outliving my money is one of the top answers. Of course, it is a valid worry. After all, we want to live comfortably in our golden years without worrying about whether we'll be able to pay the bills. 2022 Global Retirement Index, the search for retirement security in an insecure world. The Global Retirement Index is a multi-dimensional index developed by Natixis investment managers and core data research to examine the factors driving retirement security and to provide a comparison tool for best practices in retirement policy. The index includes International Monetary Fund, advanced economies, members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the BRICS countries that are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The researchers calculated a mean score in each category and combined the category scores for a final overall ranking of the 44 nations studied. According to the Global Retirement Index, Norway is ranked first. The scary part is India is ranked 44th, right at the bottom of the table. I have shared a link to the document by Natixis investment managers. We can see the global rankings in the report 2022 Natixis Global Retirement Index Danger Zone Global Retirement Security Challenges Come Home to Roost in 2022, page 75, Appendix B for the full rankings in the description. It is very worrying. It will take a miracle to retire comfortably in India. Running out of money in retirement. Watch the documentary Money Explained Retirement, Season 1, Episode 5 on Netflix. The average rate of inflation in the US from 1960 to 2021 was 3.8% per year, and the rate of inflation is twice as high in India. The average rate of inflation in India from 1960 to 2021 was 7.5% per year. We will need to save twice as much compared to the US or even more just to survive in our retirement without even considering relaxing in our golden years, and majority will be forced to work as long as our bodies will allow us to. Before I conclude, if you are planning on putting your feet up in golden years, make sure you have got the funds for it. For a 40-year-old today, even an 8-figure or 9-figure net worth may not be enough to pay for the retirement we have been dreaming of. A large majority expect they'll have to keep working longer, while a significant number worry that retirement may not even be an option. But before we give up, it's never too late to find a new strength or energy to continue something and get your retirement savings in fighting form. The two key aspects of financial planning are longevity and inflation. May the force of risk-free longevity be with you. Please go through the description for the sources for this presentation. I have shared the link to my next presentation, Understanding Inflation Targeting and the Factors Influencing Rates of Inflation in India, at the end of this presentation. And do not forget to check out the playlists for more presentations. If there is something to gain and nothing to lose by asking, by all means ask. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. I sincerely appreciate it. Namaste.